Hello and welcome to Clear Thoughts Extra. So on this segment we're going to talk about movies and film reviews, and we thought we'd get off to a flyer with probably one of the greatest movie trilogies of all time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's Lord of the Rings. I think ever since we decided to come back with the podcast, this is one episode I've been looking forward to the most. So here we are, Lord of the Rings. Boys, Said, Avi, how are we doing?
A good one, yeah.
Living our best lives, yeah, sure.
You looking forward to this one?
I've been waiting for this episode for a very long time.
Yeah, especially you guys maybe binge watched it a couple of weeks ago, and now we're finally doing it.
It had to be done. I mean, me and Said, we were so dedicated, we went to the cinema to rewatch the whole trilogy.
I regret nothing.
No regrets. 4.5 hours. We drove to Coventry to watch Return of the King. 4.5 hours. Fully worth it.
Fully worth it.
Now you're going to tell me it's fully worth it.
That's good to hear.
I got a question though.
Yeah.
You know, you just put that statement out there. Probably one of the greatest film trilogies of all time.
That's very debatable.
The thing I was thinking there was, are we going to say film series of all time or trilogies? Because then it removes stuff like Harry Potter, because that's not a trilogy.
Okay, I'll extend it to series.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
He's
that's a
spiced
film
it up.
series.
Yeah, so you can include Harry Potter in that. You can include Fast and Furious. I don't know why you'd want to,
It's up
but
there.
sure.
Fast and Furious is sick.
Side note, I heard they're going to space now.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
That
That was the only thing left, let's be honest.
that series should have died after the second movie. But
Okay, so what else have we got? We got Star Wars,
that's Star Wars, yeah.
similar category.
Star Wars, Harry
James
Potter.
Bond. Would that be?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's a
think you-
series.
I think you can class.
Oh,
James
we're
Bond.
talking about any series now. He's opened
Yeah.
up quite the book. So, Toy Story.
Batman, obviously, Dark Knight.
Oh, yeah, that's The Godfather.
Yeah.
The Godfather is there.
Oh, the Godfather, yeah.
I didn't really like the Bourne trilogy. Like, it might be worth mentioning, but I didn't really like it.
I think the only ones that can kind of come close in that series category are the Dark Knight trilogy.
The Matrix.
Sure.
Oh, Terminator.
I
Terminator.
don't think Terminator hits that spot, man.
You think? Because
if
for a
it was
while,
the
you know,
first
at the
two-
time Matrix and Terminator came out, they were kind of competing
Mm-hmm.
at one point.
I think Terminator, because it had such a good start, the last 2 or 3 have just been such a average
Yeah, they've.
level that they've kind of taken away from the rest of it. But which ones did I list?
Godfather for
Godfather.
me is the biggest contenders for me
Yeah.
are Batman and Godfather.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah.
In terms of trilogies and
Mm.
series, you've got Star Wars and stuff like that, but for me, that's not.
Star Wars again suffers from the first 3 people put in such high regard, then the middle 3 are kind of like and then the last 3 are kind of like as well.
Yeah, to be fair, maybe being more than 3 movies is kind of a disadvantage instead of
Mm.
an advantage.
Hmm.
Pirates of the Caribbean comes to mind because the first 3 were very good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I watched the latest one in cinema.
No, but
So
I literally said the first 3.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I can give it to Lord of the Rings. You know, definitely
Who would you give it
fantasy.
to?
Maybe Godfather.
See, I have to back it just because Godfather 1 and 2 are my top 5 movies of
They're
all
just
time.
amazing, man. They're actually
So-
amazing.
I can't not give it to him, but it's still
It's a
probably
difficult one.
like I think out of every like trilogy I've seen, it probably has the most satisfying ending to the trilogy I've seen, or
Lord of the
series
Rings.
that I've seen. Yeah,
Yeah.
have any not TV, sorry, film
Yeah, not a lot of series can actually achieve that.
get that like,
Yeah.
ending where you're completely happy with it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really change much.
What about Batman? That had an amazing ending.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was so satisfied with the
Yeah,
ending.
that's the
Yeah,
thing.
so as I was saying, there's very few.
Yeah.
A lot other than the ones we've listed, they've all tried to carry it on, but they haven't got the same essence.
Yeah, that's true.
This is why I was saying greatest of all time. Like I can't speak too much of Godfather because I haven't seen part 3, and from what I hear, part 3 is good on its own, but in terms of the complete trilogy, it doesn't.
It lets down the
Yeah,
others. That's
so-
true.
I can't really speak for Godfather, but
But the thing is, the Godfather. If you were to like almost 1v1 each movie, like Godfather would win.
yeah, but
But
it's,
as a complete trilogy, it's difficult.
I think the important thing here though is that Godfather and Lord of the Rings are kind of one's filmy film, cinema. The other one's more like high fantasy, sort of thing, so it's hard to compare them
Yeah,
side
different
by side.
genres.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty easy for me personally to say it's the greatest fantasy
Oh,
trilogy of
Yeah.
all time.
Oh, yeah.
Or fantasy movies.
Yeah, nothing comes close.
Yeah. It's just actually mad. Like, there's so many stories out there, but nothing comes close.
Not even Harry Potter for you?
Nah.
No?
Nah, at all.
Why not?
I actually just think they're in a different ballpark.
It's interesting because I think Harry Potter probably has a more wider acclaim than Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, more
That's
following,
more
yeah.
appeal,
Yeah.
definitely. But it's nowhere near in the same ballpark, man. Like, the level of epic fantasy you get with Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter just doesn't touch that. Do you know what I mean?
No.
But,
It's the strange thing is Lord of the Rings is meant to be more of is essentially a kid's story, but
is it though?
no, but is it though? Yeah, because it's so like to a point nerdy and so geeky that it kind of isn't. Like if you read Lord of the Rings and you read Harry Potter, you put the two texts next to each other, it's night and day. Like
Well, you could tell that which sounds more mature.
Yeah.
than
Lord of
other.
the Rings actually is quite mature the way it's written. But I thought
It was written a long time ago, though.
Yeah.
You have to consider that
That's
as well.
true.
Yeah.
But, and Tolkien was a English professor, so he is. He's
Well, J.K. Rowling was also an English graduate.
but professor
True.
compared to a graduate.
True.
But when you compare the films, when you watch Lord of the Rings, it's more cinematic and more battle and war, whereas Harry Potter's not as much, is it?
Who directed Harry Potter?
It's been loads. Christopher Columbus.
So it hasn't
His
been.
name Christopher Columbus. Oh my
So
god!
it hasn't been one person's vision then. Let me
No.
check this.
I think Chris Columbus. I think his name's Chris Columbus. I'm either mixing him up with the guy that discovered America, or his name is Christopher Columbus. But he did the first two, and then there's been different ones ever since.
There is a Chris Columbus, well done, whoops.
There's
And
one,
David Yates, Alfonso Cuarón, I can't pronounce that
Yeah.
name, and Mike Newell. See, the thing with, like you're saying, being cinematic, Peter Jackson, that was like his thing, do you know what I mean? They were filmed in one instance, do you know what I mean? Then released separately. So I feel like that's why you get that feel with
Oh, is
that.
that how Lord of the Rings was done?
It was all filmed back to back. So
Yeah.
in over like 2 years,
They just filmed it
the
all
whole
at once.
trilogy.
And that makes sense now since I watched it.
Because
It
it's so
is-
fluid,
It's
do you know
one
what I mean?
continuous story, isn't it?
Harry Potter's so jagged, and like I remember between the second and third one there was this huge gap, because normally it was one movie a year, right? And the Hogwarts Express got vandalized. I don't know if you guys remember.
No.
So they had to wait a year for renovation work to be done on it, and then record it. And then there's such a big jump between all the actors between years 2 and 3. Like they've all grown.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it was just a bit like, like
Yeah,
Look-
one from the kids, the next, they've hit the
Yeah.
growth spurt.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think, Harry Potter had the benefit of 7 movies as well. When
hey,
Lord of the Rings,
hey.
yeah, 8. Lord of the Rings, even though it's a trilogy and the books come in 3 parts, the amount of content that's actually in there would, and the films are like 3 hours a piece, so they would need another 2 or at least another 2 movies, I think, to do a full coverage of the books. Even Harry Potter didn't cover all the books; they cut a lot out. So,
It's natural though. Lord of the Rings cut stuff out as well. Like.
yeah. Harry Potter is an interesting one. I think we'll touch on Harry Potter later on when we talk about influence of Lord of the Rings on modern fantasy. But so it's not as clear and obvious as you thought. I thought it might have been being the greatest trilogy of all time.
I think I can't give it to it. I'm thinking about it, and I enjoy it a lot, but it's difficult.
See, because I'm not the same as you guys, because you guys have probably watched it since since it first came out. I mean, it's been around, but I've only seen bits of it. I've never seen it fully. I mean, since I haven't had the past few weeks, I've binge watched it all the way through. So that fan dedication of waiting for the next movie to come out and then for it being around the whole time, and you build that.
To be fair, I don't think I had that, because I think Return of the King came out in 2004, 6.
Yeah,
So I had the same, 2003. But I had the same sort of thing. I was all into Harry Potter for ages and ages, and Lord of the Rings I didn't get into until college. So that would have been 6-7 years ago, I think. So that's when I actually decided to watch them and get through them more. And then I was like, oh damn, these are actually sick.
It's because when you're younger,
Yeah, you
Harry Potter is easier to jump into.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? This other kid who goes to magic school
yeah.
and Lord of the Rings is just what the hell's happening. These elves and this guy chopping off another guy's hand and this ring is a lot more confusing. But I think it's one of those movies, like, you know, last week we discussed how certain movies are made for, like, not critics, but like for the, you know, sake of good cinema, and then certain movies are made for like the pizzazz and the appeal.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. Harry Potter appeals to more, but Lord of the Rings is so much deeper and on so many different levels if you really like take the time and watch it properly. I think
agree.
that's the difference.
And it is a kid's story, I say in quotation marks. It's not really a kid's story. It's got more of a mature writing style to it. But yeah, so what do we like and what do we dislike about
Sam.
the movies?
Sam is the one thing I like.
You like? Okay.
He's a legend.
Well,
Samwise.
Sam Wise Gandry.
I'll come back to Sam a little later on. Because
What's better than Sam?
What's better than Sam? What I will say is when we watched it in the cinema, I was amazed at how well the effects still hold up.
That is true.
For a movie that came out in the early 2000s, it wouldn't. There's a few wonky shots here and there, but I don't think it would look out of place coming out in cinema today.
It's aged really well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I watched it on my laptop and I was still amazed at how the CGI was so well done, and it was made, as you said, back in the early 2000s.
It's crazy, and because it's weird because the criticism The Hobbit gets quite a lot is that the CGI doesn't look as good. Which baffles me because the movie came out like 10 years after Lord of the Rings came out. But I can kind of get it. Like the CGI in the original trilogy had that sort of charm to it, where because they used practical costumes and whatnot, it looked more authentic. But because they went more digital in The Hobbit, it didn't look quite as.
The thing about The Hobbit is, you know, because Lord of the Rings was so successful. And so much, it's often the story that money and stuff getting involved ruins, like, series that are like could have been so good. And with The Hobbit, they didn't want it to be 3 movies. Peter Jackson originally wanted like 2.
Yeah, the studio wanted 3.
Yeah, and they forced him to like, and that's one of the biggest complaints The Hobbits get, how bloated it is and how it shouldn't be that much. But the guy who made it didn't want to make 3. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of. Because the first one was so successful, they pushed him to make a movie not like he wanted to make it, and I think that's the reason. Like a lot of the criticisms people have are because of that. Like obviously the studio doesn't mind because they still made like $1 billion off each one, but it's kind of ruined.
Raked in the money.
Yeah.
I struggled to like think of what I dislike about the movies. If I'm honest with you,
I've never thought about that.
Because I enjoy the movie so much. I enjoy the story so much. I don't really think about what I dislike. One thing I do consider sometimes is whether they should have brought back Gandalf and they should have just left him dead.
Yeah, that surprised me as well. How he came back. Just out of
Oh,
nowhere.
you know, me and Rob were actually talking about that. We were like, if you didn't know Gandalf was coming back, that would have been such a cool reveal because they're like the White Wizard, and you think it's the evil White Wizard.
Yeah.
And then so did you know when you watched it?
No. It was unexpected.
It must have been a cool reveal, no?
Because they do this thing in the movie which I think is sick, is they overlap the guy playing Sauron, and Gandalf.
With the voices.
Yeah, so they overlap their voices when they speak. So you're not sure whether it's Gandalf or Saruman speaking. It's only when he steps into
To
frame.
be fair, in terms of Lord of the Rings, I don't know how many like big reveals there are. There's Gandalf. What else is there?
The one that I do like a lot in the movie compared to the books is when Aragorn gets his sword. And Durrell. In the books, he gets it as soon as they're leaving Rivendell in Fellowship. He gets it in Return of the King in the film.
So was that like a surprise to you when you saw that first time?
When I compared the two,
I
was surprised because I think the films actually do it better than the books. It's like more impactful that he gets his like powerful sword at the end. Iron comes around to it,
and the fact that the films made you wait because you expected it to get earlier on.
Because if he has this all powerful sword right at the start, it's just like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
it loses its importance, and then he goes off in the third movie to go and get the mountain.
The men in the mountain.
Yeah, to fight on their side. That's another thing that I dislike. got just touching on a bit of the extended, non-extended. In the extended, we see the whole fight play out with the dead people, the men in the mountain.
Yeah.
And they agree to fight on his side. We see that, but in the actual theatrical version, they never actually reveal that until they get to the shoreline.
I don't know. I think it works, you know.
Because it's like, it keeps you on suspense. It's like, okay, are they going to come or are they not?
Nah, but
to
like,
the battlefield.
I think that's a good thing. I think that actually works for the theatrical edition.
Yeah, that they're not revealing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, I didn't like that bit of the
that
extended.
they told you, yeah. They could have ended it, you know, where he says no, and then this is in the extended edition of it, but you know, in the when he goes into the mountain, the guy refuses to fight for him, and then they leave and they see the ships, and then they're like, "Oh, what do we do?" And then the guy comes out, and he's like, "We'll fight for you through the mountain." Yeah. And I think if they never had that scene at the end, it would have been so much better. Just where the theater, like the scene before, where they're going over the mountain of skulls and stuff, I think that was okay. That wasn't bad. It was the scene after for me that was a bit like.
So where they attack the sail ships, you know about that bit?
Yeah. So you know how in the theatrical edition, the ships rock up.
Yeah.
And Aragorn just jumps out, and you don't know that they've already got the ships. In the extended edition, there's a scene where they take over the ships.
Oh, I saw that bit.
Oh, so you have seen the extended?
Yeah.
Oh, so you've seen the extended?
So I've seen the extended one then?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I think I have then, yeah.
So he's in where the green ghostly people are, and then he's like, "Will you fight for Gondor? Will you fulfill it off?" And they're like, "No," and then they all charge him and everything. And as they're running out, they see the ships on the river.
Yeah.
And then the ghosts come out and say, "Yeah, we'll fight for Gondor."
Yeah, I saw that.
So it's okay. So you've seen the extended.
But we could be wrong, and that's not in the extended. It's in the theatrical.
No, it's in the extended. Yeah, it's in the extended. But what else do you like? I think the MVP, not the whole story, but of the films, that I think just blew out the water was Gollum, Andy Serkis. Every time I see him, I'm
he
like,
annoyed me at one point.
How did you not get an Oscar?
He's such a good method actor.
How did you not?
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
And then there's this cool thing I told Arsene while we were watching the films. Every time Gollum's talking, his pupils, was it when the pupils get bigger?
They dilate?
Or smaller? They dilate when they get bigger.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so when Smeagol's talking, his pupils get bigger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought that was because when he's closer to the ring.
No. So when Gollum's talking, his pupils get smaller.
Yeah.
So if you just look at Gollum, you'll see who's talking in that moment.
I did like the flashback of how he was once
Smeagol.
I did like that little flashback story.
It's because as soon as he sees the ring, he's just ensnared by it straight away. It's like the ring just takes hold of him straight away.
Did he have it for the longest amount of time, or was it the Hobbit?
No,
Bilbo.
Gollum had it for the longest amount of time.
I think
because obviously you see how it's changed him over so long.
Yeah, 100 years, I think.
Question.
Yeah.
If being a ring bearer lets you go to the Undying Lands, does he qualify?
Gollum. I think because he did so much evil with it.
But I'm pretty sure he would, like...
I think because he did so much evil through that, he probably wouldn't have.
But that's the whole point of the ring, isn't it?
Yeah. Is to use your powers to do evil.
Yeah.
So I don't think Gollum would have qualified.
Oh, I looked this up. He'd die.
He'd die if he went to the end of it.
He was already stretched too thin, as Gandalf put it.
Yeah.
So even if he made it there, you can still die, and he would basically die.
I think me and Arby touched on it a couple of weeks ago. I saw the podcast. I think he said you didn't like the Hobbits.
Yeah, they're my least favourite characters.
What, all of them?
Apart from Samwise, I like Samwise character.
I was going to say Sam. You can't doubt Sam.
Because I find that really interesting. Because the whole story kind of revolves around.
Because you know the bit with the
Frodo's annoying.
Yeah, Frodo's annoying,
really?
and the other two guys who are close to each other.
Merry and Pippin.
Them two. There's the part where I think it's in Two Towers where they're with the trees.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most boring scene
With
of the whole film.
yeah.
I like that.
I like that.
I didn't like it, man. The tree took slow.
Yeah,
no,
that's
He's
true.
walking slow,
He-
and the
the whole
hobbits is just.
You know when he takes the tree?
I was like, let's get to the battle, man.
Were you surprised when he takes the tree to the part where all the trees have been cut down? And he's like, "We're gonna go to war." Was that a surprise for you?
Not really, because I was expecting that to come earlier.
He was just taking the sweet
I knew
time.
that was going to happen.
Yeah, it's this whole thing in the book, man. It's like
Because at the start, the tree said, "Oh, we don't like trespassers and men and all this stuff." And then obviously once he knew that they knew Gandalf.
Yeah.
Then that's when
He's it's one of those again. It's like extended, non-extended. We'll touch on it again a little bit later. But that whole scene that you're talking about in the forest, see even more of it.
there's more of it.
Yeah. So that's probably why, because that happens.
But I can't even
in Two Towers.
I can't. Yeah, happens
Two
to, I can't even remember what happens in the theatrical edition
It's a lot shorter.
and what happens in the extended edition.
I think because they have the end move in both, but I think the
The
end bit's-
water drinking part is only in extended, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember that part? Ollie?
Is that the elves?
No,
No,
you know the
the-
hobbits where they start drinking some water and they get taller.
Yes, I saw that bit.
So you've
I
seen
mean,
the-
definitely,
Is it-
so you've
definitely
seen
watched
an
it.
extended Two
and
Towers.
Pippin's like showing off, like he's tall. Is it Pippin that gets taller?
One of them
Yeah,
gets
one of them
taller.
gets taller.
Yeah, you definitely
Yeah,
watched the
yeah.
extended
So you've
edition.
seen the extent for Two Towers and Return of the King.
okay.
We've ticked off to just to confirm. In the Return of the King,
Yeah.
does the mouth of Sauron come out of the gate? Go.
So this guy who walks out the gate and he's got like really big teeth.
I think so. Yeah.
And he's like, Frodo's dead.
And they believe in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
Alfie, we've confirmed. I'm not gonna lie though, that scene should have been in the theatrical release. It's the only scene that, and the Minas Tirith ones, which introduce you to
Denethor.
Danethor.
We'll
Denethor?
get into extended versus theatrical.
I feel like that's the only two.
Just any other comments on what you dislike or what you liked?
What I liked about it is when I first started watching Fellowship of the Ring, I did like the first, I think it's like 10 minutes where they explain what the rings are, what the Middle Earth is. I think is it Kate Blanchett who narrates?
Yeah.
I think it was such a good way to
get you into it.
Yeah, get you into it, and
Especially
set
because the world
scene.
is so like
Big.
Yeah, and she explained it, and I understood that all as well. Yeah,
Because I think in the books there's like 4 prologue chapters. I'll give you a breakdown of everything.
yeah.
And I think the movies do such a good job of like introducing you into the world.
Hmm.
And without that, I think you're just lost. Within 10 minutes, they tell you pretty much everything you need to know and where we're going with the story.
What I wanted to ask was because they explained that is it 9 rings?
1 ring to rule them all.
Yeah,
one ring
Not-
to bind them.
9
In the darkness, find them.
No.
because before that 1 ring came, there was
Yeah,
many
so
others,
there's
wasn't there?
7 for the dwarves, 3 for the elves, 9 for mortal men.
Yeah,
The dwarves, from what I know, 4 of them were destroyed by dragonfire, 3 still remained. But I don't think they have as big as an effect
yeah.
as what the other ones do.
Okay, I've got the lyric. Shall I read it out?
Go for it. The lyric.
Guys, you ready for this? 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky, 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal men doomed to die,
Yeah.
1 for the Dark Lord on his dark throne, in the land of Mordor where shadows lie, 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them, in the land of Mordor where shadows lie.
So in the films, are all the rings still there, or is it just the 1 ring left now?
So we don't know where
no,
the
the
elf
elf-
ones are.
No, the
We only
elf-
know 1.
Galadriel is one of them. We know that. I don't know what the other 2 are. The dwarf ones, I know 3 of them had been destroyed. The other 4 I don't know. The 9 for the men, the Nazgûl, the Wraiths,
Yes.
the Black Riders.
Oh, yeah.
That's them. They're the 9.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the 9.
So that's what happens to all the rings. So then once the 1 ring perishes, all the rings start to lose their power.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why
because
Galadriel
I was
leaves.
expecting like when the dwarfs get together and and the men, and I thought at least one of them will bring their own rings
The
and use the
rings,
powers to help
Do you-
Frodo.
Only men kind of flopped. Dwarves resisted and elves resisted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The interesting thing with the elves is that
Did the hobbits have? They didn't have rings.
No, they don't fall in
the
it.
hobbits are so secluded from the world that people don't really know much about.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of just existed in a bubble.
It's kind of mad how they're not important enough to be recognised, but in the end, they're the key players. Like every big event is because of a hobbit.
So maybe that's why, because you said they're so secluded and away from it all, and maybe that's because they're so humbled and down to earth that that's why Frodo and his friends were chosen to bear the burden of the ring.
And they're not so heavily impacted by the ring.
Yeah.
It's why well, they are impacted, but it takes them a lot longer than it would a normal person. Like Boromir is ensnared by the ring straight away. Gandalf says, if I could take the ring, I'll end up using it for wrong and evil.
He says that, but I reckon Gandalf would have been calm.
But that's things like Gandalf kind of put his wisdom into the hobbits and says, this is what
That's interesting.
the score is.
You
And
say that?
How he puts it into people instead of... And
Exactly.
considering that World War One, was kind of like a reflection of Lord of the Rings, you could see that as like these guys, the Allies. Were they the Allies in World War One? Whoever they were, the British. They chose people, and then the Germans chose weapon. You could see that as like Sauron chose a weapon, but Gandalf, the good guy, chose the hobbits, like the people around him.
You say, you just gone back to what you said about Gandalf. You say he might not have been influenced, but you look at Saruman. No, he was influenced by the Dark Lord.
Yeah, but
Gandalf would have likely been as well. Even Galadriel's like, if I get the ring.
no, but Galadriel beats the test.
The test is that.
The ring's offered to her, and she says no.
No, but she demonstrates what her power would be if she were to take the ring.
No, but like she passes the test. Do you know what I mean?
No, she doesn't take it, but she demonstrates to Frodo.
She says what she would become.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I feel like Gandalf, if given the test, would pass it as well.
What's in the books? Don't really, the films rather. They don't really go into it, but Gandalf explicitly says that he was put in this realm to defeat Sauron.
Yeah.
Like them two are mortal enemies.
I think it's something like Sauron's Lord Morgul or something like that.
Yeah.
Put Sauron as his representative, and then Gandalf's what they call Nimir or something like that. I can't remember what he's called.
One of the godly people.
He's like what are they called? One sec, let me find out.
Because I thought as them two being wizards, I thought them to be relatively close and
He's an
have
Istari.
the same ideals.
They were Saruman is like he's the leading wizard.
Yeah.
And he has like all this knowledge about rings and whatnot. And he kind of gets ensnared by it. Have you seen The Hobbit?
No, I haven't seen The Hobbit, no.
Aside, you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
There's a scene where Galadriel, Sauron, Saruman, Gandalf are fighting, and then Sauron pops up. Have you seen it?
Yeah. On the like stone circle
yeah.
thing.
Then and Galadriel banishes him away.
Yeah.
You see, like, there's a really cool scene where like Saruman's there and he's just in awe by the
Yeah,
power.
he's just like
And he's just like, from that moment, that's where
he's
it starts.
he's caught.
Yeah. And he's
But
hooked
yeah,
into it.
it's interesting that they don't mention the other ones. Like the blue guy. God knows what his name was. There's like because there's not just grey and white. There's blue. There's brown.
Of wizards?
Yeah, there's 5 in total, and they're like representative of the gods on Middle Earth. I guess the best way to describe it. They can't die, and they can't. So basically, Gandalf has enough power to change the tides of war, right? But he's not allowed to. All he's allowed to do is influence people and act through them, if that makes sense. That's why we never see him directly take action.
Yeah.
But then Sauron, in essence, kind of does the same. He influences and makes orcs, but he never goes... Like, the only time we ever see him use his power is when he tries to knock them off the mountain. Saruman.
Yeah.
Where he tries to knock them off the mountain, and he tries to blow up Gandalf.
Yeah.
That's it. Do you know what I mean?
A bit off topic, but who wins in a duel? Gandalf or Dumbledore?
Oh.
Consult epic rap battles of history and let you know. I think Dumbledore. I think Gandalf.
I'll put my money on Dumbledore.
I'll say Dumbledore as well.
I was going to say Dumbledore, but then I clocked Gandalf can't die, lads. He actually can't. So he wins in it.
But he did die, right?
No, he just keeps coming back until his mission's done.
He's got unlimited respawns.
So, you know, he does
cheat
one
code.
damage
He's
each time.
He's a cheat code. Yeah, I think we covered what we like and dislike. But the question I want to ask you guys is, who do you think the real hero of the story is?
Obviously it's got to be the main guy Frodo, I think.
Which is so.
But then there's
that.
other people around him that that help him.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
Along
so
the way.
many
He
people,
could
if
not
they
have done this
didn't
on
come
his own.
through, there's so many people. If they didn't come when exactly they were meant to come, he would never have finished it.
No, but who do you think is the hero though? Would you agree with the opinion that it is Frodo, seeing as he's the one that destroys the ring?
But he doesn't.
No, I know. But
Technically, Gollum
Yeah,
does.
I know. But technicalities aside, he's the one that thingy. But
Makes the journey.
yeah,
Because then you could argue that Samwise, was the hero, because throughout the whole thing he never wavered, or
yeah.
he was
Cool.
still,
And-
himself.
And the key thing about Sam is, when he thinks Frodo's dead, the one thing he does is he picks up the ring and carries on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. I think the protagonist of the story is Frodo, but the actual hero of the story is Sam.
the goat.
Yeah.
It's fully the goat.
Samwise Gamgee.
I honestly think, and obviously, like the way the story is made, it had to be Frodo. But if Sam was the ring bearer, I feel like he would have done the whole journey.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because with Frodo, he was getting easily influenced by Gollum.
Because I think the thing with Gollum,
But then he was wearing the ring, so he was vulnerable at the time.
Yeah.
his whole thing with Gollum is that what he saw in Gollum was fear of what he might become
Yeah.
by holding on to the ring, and he was worried he would never be able to go back, and that's where the conflict between Frodo and Sam arises.
But don't you think, say, if Sam wore the ring, I think he would eventually be like how Frodo turned out as well.
Yeah, it would over time ensnare him too. It's just the amount of duration. But Sam kind of sees things as black and white, good and evil. He doesn't appreciate that there's the grey area, and that's why him and Frodo conflict so much at a certain point. That's why whenever Sam attacks Gollum, Frodo's always protective of him. He's like, I don't want to become Gollum. So he's saying he's trying to like kind of reassure himself that this won't go this way. I always found that a bit interesting.
I do want to shout out Ned Stark.
Yes, Boromir.
Man, you know what?
He had a good role in this. Of course, he had to be the first one to go out of the
I think he is the first
out of
one.
the Fellowship.
Is he the first or second one to die? Gandalf doesn't die, so.
I'm pretty sure he's the first of the Fellowship.
First one to legitimately die.
Yeah,
No, technically Gandalf does die.
Yeah.
but he
Okay.
comes back.
But Gandalf at the same time doesn't die, so I back it.
I was expecting that. Oh, maybe Boromir might come back.
It's a real shame. Yeah, I think there's only 2 moments that kind of get me like throughout the whole trilogy. It's one when Boromir dies, and then in Return of the King where Aragorn is like, "You bow to no one," and I was like, "Damn,
That's
always,
sick, yeah.
yeah, that always gets me." But yeah, Boromir dying, it's a
Is
shame.
it peak? I don't really care.
What about Boromir dying?
Boromir dying.
Tonight, it's,
Because I was just like, what a snake.
yeah, but I think it's just his acting. Sean
Yeah,
Bean's acting.
he's an amazing actor.
It's just brings so much to it.
You know my favourite scene from Fellowship? Not my favourite scene, but my favourite kind of bunch of scenes is when he tries to take the ring from Frodo,
Yeah,
and then Aragorn passes the test. And I think that whole that little culmination of scenes that when they come together is what the whole Fellowship, like the first one's kind of been pushing towards, like Aragorn's this outcast, and
He's a worthy king.
yeah. And it sets up so much stuff, and I think that's like, for me personally, in the first one at least, I think that's the best part. What are you guys thinking?
yeah. Because with when I first saw Aragorn, he doesn't seem like a typical king, does he? He just looks like like a lone knight rider, and he doesn't seem like he has sort of that leadership quality. But
you see that develop.
It fully
Yeah.
develops.
Yeah.
Fully develops.
And I think the interesting thing that he said is that he's 80 years old compared to if you're just watching theatrical, you think, oh, he's in his mid-40s or something, late 30s. But no, he's actually 80 years old.
Yeah, he's Dunedain, isn't it? Dunedain. Dunedain?
Yeah,
whatever they're called.
Dunedain.
Dunedain, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, well, I do want to give a shout out to the actual. You know how it's like this whole thing now is like empowering female characters. I gotta say, in these movies, they actually do have a couple.
Yeah.
Arwen is good, like the Elvish one. She's good, but she's not as.
I found her annoying, but
Arwen.
I didn't get.
I thought she was sick.
I don't. She's the elf, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got the elf one, Arwen, and then you got the
blonde one
from Rohan. Erwin.
Erwin, yeah.
Erwin, yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
preferred her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's.
They kind of just gave her a role though, because in the books they get daggers to kill the Witch King.
I can't remember.
They do, and in this one it was just like, I am no man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
It was cool.
She has
don't get me
such,
wrong.
but she has such a like big role in that movie. But in the books, Arwen doesn't really do anything. So that scene in Fellowship where she saves Frodo.
It's someone else, isn't it?
It's someone else.
Some elven lord.
Yeah, so she's given a bigger role.
I
So
feel
you-
like,
You gotta give it for a movie that came out in 2001.
to be fair though, you know, with Arwen, I feel like a lot of the time she was used as a kind of a mirror for what other characters were going through. Like her hesitation was at times like Aragorn's hesitation, or her, you know, journey was reflected by she. A lot of the time, her role wasn't her own. If that makes sense. So I'm not really sure how I felt about her. I preferred what's her name?
Yeah. The whole Rohan thing is just top notch.
Yeah, Rohan.
Rohan's
Yeah,
sick.
Rohan was actually sick.
It's a weird thing though. Like out of all three of the movies, I really like Fellowship. I really like Return of the King. Two Towers is the one that I kind of like skip over from just want to watch one movie on its own. So yeah, it's weird. Like I really like Rohan, but for some reason, where the most present is the one movie I tend to skip over.
You know, I used to rank them 3, 1, 2.
Yeah.
But now I
3, 2,
actually
1.
rank them 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm just a sucker for origin stories, and the first movies are just building up the lore and establishing the world. I'm just a sucker for it.
So how would you rank them?
Sorry.
How would you rank them?
3, 1, 2.
I'll probably say the same. Yeah. I mean, for me, 2 and 3 are like one big film.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, because the way I watched
the whole
it.
thing, really.
Because 2 is when the battle actually starts, and then it just carries on, doesn't it, into 3? Well, there's different battles, but
Yeah, 3 literally picks up.
it's when stuff gets serious.
Like-
in 2.
Yeah, it literally picks up from the flood.
3 is the one that we actually didn't miss the start of.
That's actually
Yeah. The 1 and 2 we missed the first like
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Yeah, so that was a bit
For
annoying.
both of them.
And those are the
Imagine
most important bits.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Yeah, because the Fellowship, the whole first scene is extended. 2 Towers, I can't remember.
What happens at the start of 2 Towers?
Can't
Harvey,
remember.
you watched the start. What
Can't
happens?
remember, man. I've already forgotten.
Oh, what's his name? I think they cross the river and then they do Boromir's funeral, and then Sam and
No, that happened.
Frodo.
Sam and Frodo leave at the end of the
yeah,
first one.
but then they land on the other bank. Legolas, Aragorn, Gimli, see them.
Oh, so
And they
that's,
start chasing the
that's when they're all separated, right? The
Yeah.
Fellowship, yeah.
No.
the Fellowship breaks at the end of the first one.
Yeah, so then Orlando Bloom, I keep forgetting his character
Legolas.
name. So him,
He is a
the
legend.
dwarf, and Aragorn.
You know,
Yeah,
the
separate.
small things, you know, it's one of those movies, the more times you watch it, you notice little things. You know when they're on the mountain and Saruman sends his voice to cause an avalanche?
And he's walking on the snow.
He's walking on the snow. And it's the small things. He is always with Gimli because he weighs nothing and Gimli weighs extra. Do you know what I mean? It's the little things where, like,
Little details.
the details, because he's super light. Elves don't have weight. Like, they do have weight, but you know what I mean? It's
These
so cool.
3 movies are the original Me movies as well. Because
Yeah, the Sean Bean meme.
the Sean Bean meme one is not simply like as soon as
Yeah.
it comes on, you just know and you have to do it.
Yeah, because I always
actually
like
just did
everyone
it.
else. I always thought it was Game of Thrones.
No,
But then when I saw when he did that bit, I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, okay, that's the meme then.
It's jokes. And then there's that one where he's stewing potatoes. It's like taters precious.
Yeah.
That's all meme. And then Legolas is like they're taking the hobbits to Isengard. Have you seen that? Yeah, they make a whole song of it. Oh, it's hilarious. You need to watch
Pretty funny.
But yeah,
We'll link it in the description.
You might. It's extra work. But yeah, we went on a bit of a tangent, but I think we all agree that Sam is the real hero of the...
I think we can... but maybe Gandalf is the real hero. Because deep this, every event that happens in the Lord of the Rings is because of Gandalf. He's the instigator of everything.
Because he has the information of when, is it Sauron?
Yeah.
Of what they're planning and,
Oh, do you realise, at the start of Fellowship, right? When Gandalf goes off and comes back to Frodo, 10 years have passed.
Really?
Yeah.
In the book.
So from when...
so when he says hide the ring,
yeah,
and he goes off and he goes into
when
the library.
Frodo first gets the ring.
Yeah, and he goes off into the library and whatnot, and he comes back. It's been 10 years.
10 years, wow.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long it's been in the movies, but
In
the books everything takes longer. You know, when they're travelling, that's long day. When they're travelling to Rivendell, that takes them like weeks.
Yeah.
Like Elrond knows in advance, stuff like that. But in the movies, it's like instant.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so guys, in the first one, favourite scene?
Not touch on it in the extended as well, but honourable mention to Lothlorien, what goes on there. But I think my favourite scene is when Boromir dies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll agree as well. That's the only one I remember. The only memorable
What about
scene.
the second one? I might as well just do it for the three.
Well, what was your favourite scene?
For the first one.
For the first one, mine one was that whole build-up of where Aragorn
Passes the test.
passes the test.
Mm.
With Boromir dying and all that. I couldn't care less about him dying. But Aragorn passing the test, I think, was so sick.
The second one, I'm trying to remember. You go first. Can't remember.
I think Avi should. We'll rotate.
I don't know. Because there's two types. Which is that where?
Actually, I can't believe I hesitated. The Ride of the Rohirrim. For me.
Isn't that in the third one?
No, that's in the second one. Right at the end, where he's like, when they're all in the doors, and he's like, "We ride for glory," or no. What does he say? We ride for something. And then basically Aragorn convinces him to ride out.
I'd say that's my favourite scene. Is that the Ride of Rohirrim? I thought that was the third one.
No, that's definitely the second one where he's like, and then Gandalf's voice plays and he's like, "Look to the dawn."
Oh yeah.
And then he comes in and he's like, "The feuded king stands alone."
Oh, so that's when they're at the gate and the enemies are coming up that
the bridge.
The bridge, yeah.
And they ride out.
Okay.
And then you hear Gandalf with his horse.
Yeah.
And then
that's when he comes with his army as well. Yeah.
That's actually my favourite.
Oh, because then from there, that's when Aragorn gets the what's it called, the mountain men.
That's the third one.
That's the yeah. That's what I mean. So once they've come out the gates, that's that's where it's gone to.
So they're fighting at Helm's Deep.
You know when the elves come to help them.
Yeah.
Right at the end.
Yeah.
Then they get caught inside, and they can't get out. And then Aragorn says to the king, "Ride out."
Yeah.
So they jump on their horses and they start riding, knowing they're going to die.
Yeah, I remember that bit. Maybe I'm confused about the next battle that happens.
That's in the third movie.
Yeah.
That's the next one. What would you put as your second one, guys?
I'd say that.
I'll say that one as well. Yeah.
Such a sick scene.
I did like the parts where the dwarf and the elf are kind of comparing how many people they've killed.
Yeah, that's pretty.
I like those bits.
That carries on though from second and third. You said that, and I remembered another scene that I think deserves an honourable mention. You know when Sam Wormtongue, is it Wormtongue? Wormstone.
Yeah.
And the guy who
Grima.
has the Grima Wormtongue. Sorry, I don't know why I said Sam. He when Gandalf comes and he's like, you would not deprive a nobleman of his stick. And then he just gets like he's not Gandalf the Grey, he's Gandalf the White. I think that's another scene. It's pretty cool.
Another honourable mention is when Sam and what's his name are sleeping Frodo, and Gollum's like standing at the lake talking to himself.
Yeah,
that whole scene is just
where Gollum kind of quote unquote wins for a bit.
He convinces Smeagol to like betray them. That whole scene's sick. Andy Serkis, give him completely awesome.
Yeah, those are deep scenes. The way he's switching back and forth between Steve
and he did that all in one take, mate.
One
Guys,
take.
Yeah, quite ridiculous.
You know, there's going to be a Gollum game coming out. You guys heard about that?
No.
Yeah.
Basically, it's going to be like a kind of sneaky game where you know how Gollum always manages to follow everyone throughout the whole show. He's following Frodo.
Yeah.
It's going to be a game which kind of takes that to the next level. So Gollum's kind of going to be cloak and dagger, going around. They haven't released many details, but it's just called Gollum. I think it could be really interesting.
So third film, favorite moment.
There's too many, man. The third one's actually my favourite movie. There's so many good moments in it.
Yeah, it's in my top 5 movies of all time.
I'm just thinking, like, there's Aragorn jumping out the ship, like Avi was saying. There's, you bow to no one. There's his speech. His speech where he's like, there'll be a time of day when men will
Power
fail.
men fails, but not this
Not
day.
this day. Oh, yeah, there's such a sick speech.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, every single cool scene for me doesn't involve the hobbits except for one, where Sam comes.
Yeah, it's like
Against
I
Shiva.
can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Oh no, you're talking about the.
I was talking about the spider, but I
The
just
spider,
realised
yeah.
that scene is sick as well.
That's why Sam's the hero of the story.
That scene is like. I'm just thinking, what other scenes are there?
For me, bow to no one.
Gandalf knocking out Denethor just gave me a little bit of happiness.
Knocking out who?
Denethor?
Oh,
What's his name?
Denethor.
What's his name? Denethor.
Yeah. It's in the extended. I'd never seen it before. When the Witch King destroys Gandalf's staff. Yeah. Oh, that was sick.
It shows you like him using
it's
some of
just
his
like,
power.
damn, just like Gandalf's meant to be this all-powerful being. Then the Witch King comes and just destroys his staff. It's like, damn. That whole thing's cut out the theatrical, but...
One person, character I really like. I don't know why.
Faramir?
No.
Oh.
Shadowfax.
Of
Gandalf's horse. Doesn't get enough credit, fam.
Because he's throughout, right? Even when
It
Gandalf's the
comes
Grey.
in the second one.
Yeah, he's in the second.
Because he leaves the forest.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole scene where Legolas looks and he's like, whoa, is that horse? And he's like, yeah, that's that horse. It's actually a scene. Don't ask me why. I just remembered.
Sorry, he likes horses. It's fine.
I don't know, it's just so cool. Like, every time Gandalf talks to the horse, right, it's just hype. He's like, run, Shadowfax, show us the meaning of haste. Like, it's just the way he talks. It's just like...
I got one from the third. The beacons.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I like that
sick.
bit.
That's
Yeah.
actually sick.
Is it Andor? They're called Beacons of Andor?
I think it's the Beacons of Gondor.
No, Beacons of Andor.
It's just the Beacons of Gondor.
Because it's Gondor that stretches into Andor, I think. But I don't know. That scene. No, I think my favourite scene is You Bad to Know. Like
That's
I said,
up there.
That's the one that gets me. It's like, shit, man. These guys have been through so much. So the Hobbits, again, the respect they deserve. Harvey, favourite scene?
The Beacons are of Gondor.
What's with your pronunciations?
Tired, man. I've had a
I
long
would
day.
have to say Beacons.
Beacons. Yeah, it's a 6
Because when they were trying to convince us of Rohan,
Rohan,
yeah, it felt like it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah,
And then right at the last minute, that's when they start to do it.
They have a little scene where the army of Rohan lands.
Yeah, on the hills.
Yeah, it isn't the best of scenes,
Oh, no,
but it's
wicked.
pretty high.
His speech, where he's like, everyone's got their spears out.
Yeah,
and he's running
yeah,
down
yeah.
the sword. It's sick.
No, but I mean, like, compared to the other ones in this movie.
Yeah. And then like he's charging down and he's just yelling out death. Like,
Yeah.
the cry is death, and it's just
And if you deep it, when you compare it to the Battle of Helm's Deep, where he didn't want to ride out, and
now he's got
his
he's got his
perspective,
confidence back.
it's pretty sick.
Mm.
And just thinking, what else happens in that movie, man? The movie start. You know what? One scene that annoys me, and I know it's important, and it's a good scene. It's actually a good scene. It annoys me. I don't know why. On every rewatch, is Smeagol at the start when he's fighting the other Hobbit whose name I can't remember. Deagle. He's fighting Deagle.
Yeah, I don't get why you hate it so much.
I just don't like it. It just irks me, man.
Why?
When they're
It's
just
how he got the
fighting.
ring.
Like I said, it's important, and I get it.
It's because you see, as soon as he sees a ring in Deagle's hand,
He's just like, I want it.
Yeah, he's ensnared by it straight away. That's the power.
It's one of those scenes that irks me.
And then when he kills him, it's so unexpected. He didn't realise that they just killed someone.
Mm.
You know,
And does the,
even when he probably didn't even mean it, he just wanted the ring.
Yeah, it shows his descent as well, which is kind of good.
how easily corrupted his mind is. But yeah, I think all in all,
Yeah.
Not a bad movie. Extended versus theatrical. What do you prefer?
Extended's just better, isn't it?
See, I think...
More is better. If they give me an extra hour of Lord of the Rings, I'd be calm.
So I was going to say, because Ollie hasn't seen the extended.
No, see,
It turns out he has.
So, yeah, because from what you guys said...
Did you watch the extended on the first one as well?
I'm not sure. So I've probably seen all 3 extended now.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, but since I've got nothing to compare them, theoretical extended, I would prefer the extended because there were some, as you said, the scenes that we just went through. I would have loved to, have them in there.
Yeah.
Apart from the
I think the most of the scenes we've covered are in the theatrical.
What scenes are in the extended for the Fellowship?
So Fellowship, you have
so we can
the
confirm
start is kind of different because it's what's his name?
Galadriel's ring, is that in the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, Avi, do you remember seeing Galadriel's ring?
No, I don't think so.
The elf lady, does she pull out the ring and go green?
That's in theatrical.
No, that's in...
It's in theatrical. She goes
Oh,
green.
yeah, she goes green.
You know at the start of the film, Bilbo does a voiceover explaining life at the Shire.
Yeah.
Is that in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Come on. We're all on the same
Oh, so that's the
page.
extended?
That's extended.
Okay,
yeah.
so I've seen all 3 extended.
So it's hard to compare what
I rate you, Avi.
should and
Made the
shouldn't
right
be there.
choice.
So I've seen the theatrical and seen the extended. I think the extended is good for people who are hardcore fans and want more from the films. But I think you can kind of watch the theatrical and be fine with it. But yeah, I think if you're a hardcore fan and really like it,
I just think generally, like, the extended makes a more complete movie.
Yeah, I'd agree as well, yeah.
Like, at any point,
Story
Avi, did
makes
you
more
think
sense.
this is too much?
I think there's stuff that you can kind of get away with though.
I mean,
Take it out.
all the films, they're like 3 hours plus,
Yeah,
aren't they?
It's like just
I couldn't watch them.
Return of the King's like 4 hours, I think.
Yeah, like Return of the King, I had to watch that over 2 days. I couldn't watch it all in one go.
Yeah, the thing is, while we were watching in cinema, I was like, when the movie ended,
How did you go? You had no intermission or break? Or
No.
You
You
just
did
watched it?
ask if there was. They said no. And to be honest, at the end of the film, I was like, that didn't feel like
4 hours.
4.5 hours. So I think I enjoyed it that much. So yeah, I think that's just a credit to good filmmaking. If it doesn't feel like 4 hours long, then they're doing something right. That's for sure.
I agree with that.
That's true. Because people had complained about how long Avatar was, and that wasn't even that long, really.
I feel like just generally going to the cinema for 3 hours is a difficult feat for like to hold attention, but
They definitely do it.
there's very few gripes I have, to be honest. Like, we've mentioned most of them, and the only thing is there's some scenes that should have been in the theatrical that were in. That's it, in my opinion. Like I mentioned before, the mouth of Sauron.
Oh.
Like stuff like that, because it's one of those things I have where with the theatrical edition, you just see him say, because I watched that one first and then I watched the extended, and you just hear him say for Frodo, and you're just so confused, like, why is he saying for Frodo and running into this guy? Do you know what I mean?
No, because they explain the whole point.
They don't explain it in the theatrical
No,
edition.
they do, because the reason why they've gone there is to buy time.
I know,
Frodo.
but in
You're
the
like, why-
extended
no.
edition, he says they've killed him, so he's Aragorn's like,
Yeah, so
no,
in that
because
moment
the-
he's so
for
angry.
Frodo.
Yeah.
No, but it still works in theatrical because it's like, if we fail, we're fucked. If we can somehow buy time, then Frodo can still go through.
But
So
it doesn't
still
have that
works.
impact of him,
No,
dying for
I do
Frodo.
get-
Like,
But we know Frodo's still alive.
yeah, I know. It's just, I feel like it's a little bit of an oversight that they wanted to get away with. Don't know, guys. Put it in the comments. Let us know your opinion.
Yeah, I do really like the extended, but I think you can. I think if you're more of a intense fan and you need more content, then yeah, I'd recommend the extended. But every great film is not without plot holes. Apparently, Side has found one.
It's just general stuff that doesn't make sense. Like, for example, when Isildur and Elrond go to the mountain, so they've just fought this huge war. Firstly, even if before we get there, okay, how does my man chop off his ring with just a random sweep of a sword that's broken? You know what I mean? That's like, it's not realistic. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
So the sword is already broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sauron steps on the sword and snaps it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then he just picks up a little shard and chops his finger off. Like, come on, like, there's levels of fluking a win. Do you know what I mean? And like that whole, and I understand it's needed, blah blah blah. But if you're looking for stuff, and then they go to the top, and they've literally just seen thousands of people die to get this ring to this place where they can explode, kill it, not kill it, but get rid of the ring. And he just lets him walk away, like in the scene.
Yeah.
He just turns around and he's like, "No, I'm gonna keep it," and walks away. And it's not like Elrond's a pushover. He's like the commander of all the elves. You could literally just grab him, at least fight him for it. Do you know what I mean? But he just lets him walk.
I don't think he probably appreciated it at the time, the extent to which...
No, it's explained like in more depth that, when Sauron cast the spell to make the One Ring, all the elves clocked.
Yeah, they were aware of his presence, yeah.
And that he betrayed them. So they knew, we need to get rid of this ring. They knew the power of that ring. If anyone knew it, it was him. So that's a bit of an oversight.
Maybe that's just one elf that made a mistake then.
I think it's for dramatic effect, because him walking away is quite dramatic.
Yeah, but it's not his right to take away the ring. It's his ring. And he probably thought, Sauron's dead now, his magic's probably
I feel
died
like
with
anyone knew
Yeah, but it's
that
just
it's in his ring. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other plot hole, guys, is the plot hole that's been there for literally as long as Lord of the Rings has been there.
The eagles,
Talking about the eagles, man. And everyone's mentioned these eagles, but obviously can be a bit confused. Obviously, like explain.
Another one eagle.
So there's an eagle, right?
Yeah.
Like the eagle that grabs Frodo and Sam at the end.
Yeah.
Explain this to me, Albie. In your opinion, why could the eagles not just fly over Mount Doom and drop the ring? Why make Frodo walk all the way from the Shire, walk all the way there on foot, when Gandalf has these eagles on speed call because they saved him so many times?
Yeah.
Why didn't he just phone his boy and be like, "Yo, eagle, come through, pick up Frodo, shoo, land,
maybe
drop
the
ring."
eagles are powerful enough to carry the ring.
So
and the eagle's kind of an extension of Gandalf, isn't it?
Nah, it's a whole race.
It's a whole race.
And Gandalf just knows the king. He's titled.
Oh, okay.
The eagles are like you say, their own race. They have their own customs and whatnot. They're quite noble and not ignorant, egotistical in a way. So they don't meddle in the affairs of men.
Yeah, but if Gandalf asks them.
Yeah, but it's.
So yes, to ask an eagle to do that, it's a big job.
Carry the One Ring.
It's a lot of burden on them.
Why would they?
So instead, he just calls in a favour and says, pick up my boys from the mountain.
I got this. The eagles were beings of Arda, who is, some...
He's a god, basically.
One of the gods, yeah? And they were made by the... No, Arda was the old earth. Yeah, whatever. Basically, the head of the wizard made the eagles, okay? So in essence, they kind of... not own them, but, they rule them, do you know what I mean? Gandalf became the head of the wizards when he came back as Gandalf the White. So, okay, in the first movie, maybe Saruman still controls the eagles. In the second movie, maybe Saruman still controls the eagles. By the start of the third movie, do you know what I mean?
Maybe it's okay for him just to call in one or two favours. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, so eagles are not.
He literally gets the eagles just to go pick up Frodo, to give him a lift.
I mean, that was the only way that they could be saved. Even I knew, when Sam and Frodo were there on the mountain after doing the job, I knew that the only way that
all the favours in the world, surely getting rid of the one weapon that's going to kill us all.
But at that point, the ring's been destroyed. The threat of Sauron's gone. Mordor's now a safer place to enter. Why would they get involved?
Because if Gandalf asks them to, they kind of have to.
I mean, they probably don't.
No, they do.
And it's not like it's just any ring.
And the eagles are saying, why can't you do it?
Yeah.
Why can't Gandalf do it?
And
because Gandalf can't fly, innit?
One neat detail, every time the ring, when Frodo's wearing the ring, you see it in the third movie, he's got burn marks where his chain is, because the actual weight of the ring is holding him down. And then when the ring drops on the floor, it just drops.
Yeah, because he gets fatigued. As it gets closer to the Mount Doom and the longer he's had it for.
The strength of the ring increases, I think. Yeah. Closer he is to his master.
So as I was saying before, the eagles might not have that strength to hold it.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. I do get it. It's a bit of a meme at this point, but
any more plot holes?
Generally, Not really. I'm not going to
I
lie
think
to you.
most subtitles are probably just nitpicking, and
Yeah.
the answers you can get from the books.
What I did want to ask was, you know, where they speak Elvish,
Mm.
are there subtitles in the film you watched in the cinema? Are
They
there-
are for some
For
bits
some
and
bits.
some, and they haven't.
Because I think the majority of the time there were no subtitles, and then they'll just have the English kind of just summarize at the end of the conversation what it was
you
they were
got
talking
some,
about.
you got some dodgy stream up.
No, it's just
on some of them they do have the subtitles.
We don't stream. Avi brought it on Amazon Prime.
Yes, he did buy it.
a worthy purchase.
They
Extended
do,
edition.
No, I mean like when they're having a conversation, you know, the Elvish, and then at the end of the conversation they'll switch to English
Mhm.
to say, "Oh yeah, we'll do that."
Yeah, some of the some of the Elvish is translated in subtitles,
Oh, okay, maybe I missed some parts of that then.
but not all of it.
If it wasn't all subtitled.
They don't translate all of it.
What I was doing as I was watching Lord of the Rings was comparing it a lot to Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
and what I found was that when you hear Elvish, it sounds very similar to High Valyrian in Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's
So I wasn't sure if that's something that George R. Martin,
I think they hired the same language guy.
who
No.
makes up the languages.
what?
Yeah, there's a guy who makes up languages
Yeah.
for movies
Yeah,
and
no, I know
shows.
that, but it wasn't him.
Swear it's the same
It's not
guy.
the same guy.
I don't
Right, he-
research
Elvish
this
was-
momentarily.
But it sounds
He-
so familiar.
He wrote loads of it himself. Tolkien did. So it couldn't be.
Also, Tolkien made it.
Tolkien made up a large amount of that language himself. They might have hired someone for the movie, but it wasn't the same guy that did Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. But you do make a interesting point, Harvey, about how Lord of the Rings has influenced modern fantasy, and modern fantasy, including Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and that. I think the big one that I always come back to in Harry Potter is Voldemort having his Horcruxes, because in a way the One Ring in itself is a Horcrux, broadly speaking.
I've never deeped that,
Yeah.
and it fully makes sense.
Because he's Sauron's essentially just poured his essence / soul into the ring. That's why he endures for as long as he does, and he only dies once the One Ring is destroyed. And same with Voldemort. He puts his soul into an object so he can survive.
He also puts his soul into
Other
person.
people as well, yeah.
No, Harry. You're a wizard, Harry.
Harry.
Harry's a wizard.
So yeah, I think that's the biggest one that I can think of with Harry Potter. Yeah, sorry about all the background noise. We're in the end where we're recording the podcast. We are working on our soundproofing. Yeah, but back to it. The Horcrux is the main one that I can think of from Harry Potter.
I can't think of any others. I'm actually thinking what could have the old wizard guy. Dumbledore fully could have been inspired by Gandalf.
Yeah,
They're so
Gandalf the
similar.
Grey, yeah. Very similar.
Voldemort, some of his character tropes kind of link to Sauron's. But in general, that's just because like Lord of the Rings inspired so much fantasy that you're gonna see similar tropes. Do you know what I mean?
And even between the characters Harry Potter and Frodo, they are similar, protagonists, aren't they?
Yeah. But Game of Thrones is just his like general writing style, and how big of a story and world that they've created.
And you see Dobby and Gollum, they're complete opposites in terms of characters, but they're kind of similar beings, aren't they?
They look
Oh,
similar.
Dobby.
Yeah, they look similar.
Dobby.
The interesting one with Gollum and Game of Thrones that I've spoke with Said before about this, how is it Danny or John? I can't remember. One of the two of them are a pseudo Gollum. I think Danny is. So Danny gets corrupted by the idea of having the throne, the same way Gollum is corrupted by the idea of having the ring. And the theme that runs in both of those stories is how absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's a famous quote by someone, I can't remember who. But yeah, the idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely. The same thing happens to Dany. Once she gets that power, the throne, sees that throne, gets engulfed by the Iron Throne.
So the Iron
She's
Throne is
corrupted by it.
is that the ring?
Is the ring
Yeah.
in Lord of the Rings. And that's what happens to Gollum. And then people often compare Aragorn to Jon, being this hidden king coming out of the shadows to claim his thingy, but he's not He's a Frodo. He's a pseudo Frodo in that he serves his purpose, but he's not the ultimate hero of the story. He's the one that gets the assist, sort of thing. But yeah, they're my takeaways anyway. Anything from you guys?
I mean, you notice, are they in Lord of the Rings? Are they dragons?
They
don't look like proper
they
dragons.
are dragons. They are.
I think they're dying.
But not in Lord of the Rings. There's none in Lord of the Rings.
That we're aware of.
No,
Those are Nazgûl.
The one that what are they called? The screamers are riding on.
Yeah, the Nazgûl.
That was Nazgûl.
It's not a dragon.
It's not a dragon.
Dragons are like. Have you watched The Hobbit? You haven't watched The Hobbit.
No, I watched The Hobbit.
There's-
Is that the Smaug?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I watched a video on this the other day.
So there are dragons in Lord of the Rings.
They are dragons, and there's like 3 generations. The first generation was made by Sauron's master. They never had wings. They were just huge to kill people. The second generation were like bigger. They couldn't really fly, and then the third generation were like Smaug, and they could go around popping people.
They're similar in design to the Game of Thrones dragons. Similar, but not all the same.
You know what's interesting though? Little nerdy info. The Game of Thrones dragons in the show aren't dragons. They're wyverns, because dragons are meant to have 2 arms, 2 legs, and wings. But in Game of Thrones, they have
It's a
2
different
wings and 2 legs.
Cool.
Just want to let everyone know that.
Everyone's fun fact for the day.
Boom, boom. It's my clear thought.
So, post Lord of the Rings, I don't think you guys are aware what happens.
No, fill us in.
So, post Lord of the Rings, Frodo goes off to the Undying Lands. Sam goes back to the Shire, becomes the mayor of the Shire for like 70 odd years.
Oh yeah, there's the war as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's cut out of the books, out of the films.
Yeah.
It's in the books, scouring at the Shire. But we won't go into that. Unless you read the books, there's...
Also, the books goes beyond what the film
showed. You know when Frodo, Sam, Merry and Pippin come back to the Shire?
Yeah.
It comes back and it's been scoured because Saruman doesn't die, he's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Grima have taken over the Shire, ruined it and whatnot. But in the movies, they cut that and changed that. They come back to the Shire, it's how it was.
And Frodo goes to the Undying.
You know, again, that's a link to World War One. Like when they came back home, it was never the same.
Yeah.
The hobbits went to war, they came back, it was never the same. Because most of the village, but most of like the soldiers weren't professional soldiers. They were just like laymen who were forced to go to war, just like the hobbits. They were just regular farmers who were forced to go on this ridiculous journey, which is basically like World War One, and then come back to a home that's changed.
Yeah, that's one of the big reasons why Frodo was sent off too, because he's seen so much and he's been through so much.
You can never fully heal because his wounds still hurt. But it still works, even though they changed it in the films. When they come back, it has been scoured. It's still different for them. They've come back. They're changed. They're new people. They've had new experiences, but the place that they were has remained the same, hasn't changed. So fitting into that just didn't work for them.
And therefore they had to go to heaven.
Well,
/ the Undying Land.
Frodo did because of being ring bearer. But Sam also ends up going to the Undying Lands because he was a ring bearer for a period of time. It's like an hour or two, but he's still a ring bearer.
Those
and
2
for
hours.
services.
Because I thought Sam would do his own Hobbit story. Because that was the whole point of when Frodo gave him the book, innit?
Yeah,
So
he has
he
a
was
kid.
just to write Frodo's
2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids,
13.
loads of kids.
13
Okay.
kids.
It's just
Sam
gonna
has
go.
13 kids. He's a very busy man.
But that's what he wanted.
And he marries Rosie, is it Rosie?
Rosie,
Yeah.
yeah.
Rosie Cotton, what's her name?
The bartender.
The bartender.
Yeah, so I'm going to whiz through this. So Sam goes to Undying Lands as well. Merry and Pippin go to Gondor. Yeah. Frodo and Pippin go to Gondor, live out their lives there. And when they die, they get buried next to Aragorn for the rest of the time. So Aragorn, Pippin and Merry.
Yeah, well, they're not
buried
going to
together.
take the graves and be
Yeah,
like...
but it's just one of those sick things, isn't it? Gimli goes to Undying Lands, so does Legolas. And magic starts to fade from the world. Dragons have died out. The dwarves have buried themselves and disappeared from the world. Hobbits have kind of gone to being secluded again. And it's just the realm of men. Elves have left. and magic is dying from the Middle Earth.
Do you think how, like a lot of successful fantasy, they give you this illusion that this could be happening? So, for example, like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Harry Potter could be legit. Like, obviously, it's probably not. But the way that the books are set up, it's this secret magic school that us muggles wouldn't know about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if we did, our memories being altered or something.
Yeah. Now, Lord of the Rings, there's a similar thing where maybe this happened in the past. Maybe elves were real. But now magic's dying out. Humans are as we are now. Do you know what I mean? It's interesting how most fantasy does that. Gives you this illusion that this could probably be possible. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's what he was going for. I think he was trying to say that this Earth is what happened, and now we're in our, like, where we are.
I don't know. You know what he was going for is so confusing. Like, so many people are like, this was defo a World War reflective piece, and it makes sense.
But he says it isn't that, but then he also says, I can't be swayed by my own personal biases. So it's like, make up your mind. But yeah, shout out Tolkien. He's from the ends, from Hall Green.
Have you guys seen the Tolkien film that came out recently?
No. It's something I do want to watch. It didn't do that well apparently in the box office.
Who acted as Tolkien?
It was the
Do you
one.
reckon they took scenes from Hall Green?
It was the one who acted out Stephen Hawking.
Eddie Redmayne.
I think it was him.
Was
Was
it
it
him?
him? I
He's a
might be
really good
wrong.
actor.
It
He's
might
a
be a
really
different
good
British actor.
So I don't think it was him. I think it was another one. I feel like it would have got a lot more hype.
Oh no, it might have been the guy. I might be wrong again. It might be the guy who played. He was in the X-Men. He was the blue. I can't remember. I don't know what mutant it's called.
No idea. I haven't seen the X-Men.
Yeah, it was Nicholas Hoult.
That's it, Nicholas Hoult. Yeah.
That's who it was. Yeah, he was in Mad Max.
Yeah.
Fury Road, which I still haven't watched.
Oh man, it's such a good film.
Really?
Mad Max. Yeah.
Is Tom Hardy in it?
Yeah. And he's not even the best character in it.
Really?
Nah. Even though he's the main guy, he's Mad
Next
Max.
review, guys. Tom Hardy, Mad Max.
I still need to watch the old Mad Max films.
I haven't watched any of
They're
them.
supposed to be the best ones.
Yeah, but he was also in X-Men, Harvey. Right.
Yeah.
Can't remember who he was though.
He was the blue. He was like
he was
scientist.
Beast. He was Beast.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, I forget that.
I remember now.
Beast.
Such a simple name. But yeah, just close out then. So what do we think is the best one out of the three? I think we covered it.
Third one.
The third one?
Straight.
Harvey, third one?
Yeah, I'll say third one. Yeah.
I'm with the third one as
It
well.
was a satisfying ending. As I said before, that the way it started off with Fellowship was brilliant, and the way it ended was brilliant as well.
I do want to say, touching on the ending though, to close out, it's probably, like I say, it's probably the most satisfying ending I've seen. It's that bittersweet ending where it's not completely happy, but there's enough happiness there.
Just before, I agree with that. I think that's something we go, because I think this would be good to do. Give it a scale of 0 to 10. Going forward, we have to stick to the scale.
Yeah. But should have.
So are we going to do...
the whole trilogy.
That's what... Do you want to do quickly movie 1, movie 2, movie 3, and then trilogy? Or do you want to just do trilogy?
I'll just do trilogy, yeah.
Okay. I'll give the trilogy 9 out of 10.
Oh. Harvey?
I'll say...
We got to be completely honest here, because
I'll
other
say-
movies will be rated on the scale.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking of other movies. I think I'll give it 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10,
8
okay.
out of 10, yeah.
I'm struggling, man. I'm thinking...
You want to give it 10 out of 10?
Firstly, it's impossible to have a 10 out of 10 by definition, right?
Okay, well.
It's just because fantasy it's very niche, isn't it? It's like you either get it or you don't.
You know what? It has to go 9 because it does. It has to go 9.5. Forget it. It does what it does perfect. And I know what you're saying. Fantasy is a niche, but it's killed fantasy.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I'm gonna stick to 9, maybe 9.5, 9. Yeah, I think that's solid.
I'll stick with 8.
Yeah, I think that's.
No, I'm happy at 9. We've got a nice little average.
We've got consensus that it's at least an 8 out of 10. If it's not an 8 out of 10 to you, you got some issues.
You do.
But yeah.
Yeah. I wish most things could have an ending like Lord of the Rings.
Batman. What?
No, Batman had Batman had a bittersweet ending as well.
Batman had an amazing ending.
Yeah. We'll touch on Batman. I think might do Batman as another trilogy episode. We're throwing it back because of lockdown and no new films are really coming out. So we're touching old movies.
Classics. Godfather, Sin Land. What?
And if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings and you've listened to this whole podcast, sorry for the spoilers, but
Yeah, for some reason
Gandalf dies.
don't need to shout. That peaks on my screen. I'm just gone.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that, guys, but Gandalf
yeah,
dies.
we highly recommend Lord of the Rings.
We do 10 out of 10 recommend. If you have any movie suggestions, do let us know.
Or TV shows.
Yeah, or TV shows. Drop us a comment on our DMs or something, or on the show comments. Again, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the major streaming platforms. Be sure to leave us a like and a comment. On our Instagram page, if you are following us, do like the posts and whatnot. It helps with engagement and helps spread the word. But yeah, that was Clear Thoughts Extra, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.